Hey everybody. Ooh, I just felt those tears again. Sometimes as soon as I really just slow down for a moment and step into the space, I feel all sorts of things happening. Welcome to another week in an open door. Uh, it is according to the calendar sitting on this computer, January 12th, 2026. It's a Monday. It's the hour we've entitled Where the Rubber Meets the Road, and where we take an idea from A Course in Miracles and talk about what it means and how to use it. It's so interesting because yesterday she's not here, Bubbles, Michelle, whatever you want to call her, sent me a text. She said, I'm reading your email that you sent this weekend and did the invitation to work with, this workbook lesson, was it inspired? And what was funny is that what I know is that I didn't open the book at random this week. I know that, but I can't remember when the guidance came to work with. I know it was guidance, and initially the guidance was just those two lines, two of my favorite lines from the course. God's will for me is perfect happiness. I share God's will for happiness for me. And then I know the past is disappearing almost as quickly as it's arriving in my space. And then I remember sending at some point a message to Amy saying, God's will for me is perfect happiness. I share God's will for happiness for me. I think I did that on Thursday because I wasn't at the Advaita class and I was asking her what next week was. And then I, before I wrote Saturday's email, opened the book and realized that there was a lot going on and that I can tell you now that next week the focus is going to be on I share God's will for happiness for me because this week there was a very clear pointing that showed up when I sat with the text of God's will for me is perfect happiness. Because that text wasn't all, sugar plums and roses if you spend time with it. And so I'm going to say a few things. I'm going to play Holy Now because while I was sitting with it, it's the only song. So, Peter, it's the only song I wanted to listen to. And so I knew it was for this. And then we'll hand things over to Andrew. There's something in here that is resisting this teaching, by the way. And I'm recognizing, I don't know about you, but there is a line in this teaching that states, fear not the will of God. And for whatever reason, as I'm getting really, really, really quiet now, consciously, I don't fear the will of God. I have all of I've spent a lot of time with the verbiage in the scripture. I believe it completely. I know that God is love. All of the things we all talk about, right? All of the things we talk about. And when I get really, 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 really quiet and I watch what the body mind does, fear of God arises. Now, I'm not complaining about it because the only place that fear of God will arise is in the sense of a separate self, and that's what's being undone. So it doesn't surprise me that the fear of God is arising. For me, the invitation, and someone on a diet this weekend about something else said, I am not afraid to feel the fear. The what is arising in me now is the overwhelming invitation to trust the teachings and to not fear experiencing whatever is arising in the moment, to allow it to fully express, which what was going on as I was sitting with this message is there's an infection inside. There is there is the egoic sense that what I am has left my source. We've spent a lot of time talking about this, but there is this energetic attention being placed on something other than this being an expression of God. And I know that that's not true. I know that that's not true. And the experience of that is like like areas of infection held here. And more and more, the understanding is to let it out, to expose it, to not hide the fact that there are pockets of impulses and energy that says God's, fear of God's punishment, fear of God's wrath is the way it showed up at one point. And I'm looking at this lesson sinking into a deep yes. And really, you know what hit me more than anything else in this practice? I'm going to read the definition of sin from the Course. Um, it states clearly with an exclamation mark in this lesson, you need the practice periods today, exclamation mark. You need the practice periods. Why? Why do I need them? I don't know about you. I need them because every time I sit still, I invite what isn't true to come up into awareness and be fully felt and experienced and allow it to express itself so the happiness which is God can be seen as well. As long as I am frightened of what is held in this sense of a separate self, it's like God keeps the door unclosed, but I have my back to it. So this practice held, and I didn't write down the specific practice because I have my own practice right now. We all have our own way of getting into this space, right? I am very comfortable with allowing all this stuff to come up and then using the attunements as I'm learning from the guides. Allowing it all to come up while I remember that I am in God, of God, with God. It's no better or worse than the practices of going through the workbook lesson. When you get really quiet, it's no better or worse than John working with his teachers or, working with whatever practice, working with Buddhism or Sufism or whatever is, we're called to our practices. The practice isn't the thing. It's the saying yes to the truth is true and then following the guidance that arises as to how to be with it, whether it's, you know, um, loving our dreams or coming to these meetings or doing the dyad practice or sitting with a trusted sage or the book review. It's all part of it. So the practice, according to this lesson, is it teaches that sin is not real and all that you believe must come from sin will never happen, for it has no cause. God's will for you is perfect happiness because there is no sin and suffering is causeless. So we can experience this sense of pain and fear and suffering. And if we allow it to just reveal itself, and if we come, Lonnie was a great demonstration for me over the last couple of weeks because I don't know how many times she calmly said to me, there's a fear here I don't want to express. There's a fear here about describing who and what is happening in my world. And she didn't say, but I'm going to listen to the fear and not do it. And anyone who hasn't listened to what happened last Thursday, I would like to suggest you listen to it again. It was extraordinary what happens. Yep, there's fear here, and I just really want to say it out loud, you know. Sin. According to A Course in Miracles, the definition of sin. And at the top of this page, I wrote, because I keep asking, do I hold a belief in sin? Is it here? Does Cindy hold a belief in sin? Not do I believe sin is real, by the way, because over and over and over and over again, fear is arising, and I know that fear isn't real, and fear is arising. And I got Sandra telling me, that's just part of the human condition, and let it come up. Don't use the mind to tell you something isn't happening if it is. That's what this boils down to, right? Sin, the violation of the laws of God or goodness, specifically an attack that attempts to do harm for the sake of selfish gain and that succeeds. How can we ever succeed in attacking God, by the way? When I say these things out loud, it feels a little funny. That results in real harm. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. An actual gain. Sin is an illusion, for no one can really be harmed, since in truth we are all God's changeless Son. What appears to be a sin is merely a mistake, which results in loss rather than gain, and which calls for help rather than punishment. So really, the focus on the practice is a way to undo the false belief in sin, in the fact that I can attack God, or I can attack God's Son, or that I ever separated from the happiness which is God. I haven't, but there's a sense of that seems to color certain parts of the day. And when it arises, it's not useful for me to look at it and say, you're not real. I'm learning that it's useful for me to allow it to fully express while I rest. There is nothing to fear in aligning with God's will. And that sometimes means experiencing fear and not pretending otherwise. And with that, I'm going to play Holy Now, because when I fully listened to this song, which I heard Andrew didn't know about until a couple of weeks ago when I played it here, so I know I've played it recently. When I listened to that song, I remember. Something in me remembers and allows whatever is hidden here to be expressed without feeding it. So let's do that.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. Used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
A gorgeous scarf, Cindy. It's a gorgeous scarf, Amy. I was completely drawn to that red. Um, God's will for me is perfect happiness. If I'm not in this moment experiencing that happiness, the suggestion strongly is to practice. And with everything else I said, and the way it just sort of flowed or didn't flow, it's a little, still feeling a little sloppy here. And I want to say it's sloppy here. The experience is of allowing the resistance to be seen and to open all the doors. Like, again, God keeps the door unclosed. It's now one of my favorite lines. So there is this over, I'm seeing more and more where this sense of a Cindy is turning its back on those unclosed doors, and it's just not working for me anymore. Either I'm connected with all of consciousness and can allow an acceptance that everything that's arising here comes from the one source, well, there is no or to that. That's just what's happening. Um, the desire is to hand things over to Andrew. So Andrew, and then we're opening things up. Hey, Andrew, I love that we're all here.
Hello, Cindy. Hello, everyone. Love you all. It's great to be here with you. Yeah, this lesson, it talks a lot about how the world views sin and salvation. Salvation requires punishment if sin is real, and uh, and then it goes on to say that there is no sin, which is beautiful. It's wonderful. Uh, there is no sin. It has no consequence. God's will for me is perfect happiness. What's hard about this lesson for me is if God's will for me is perfect happiness, God's will for perfect happiness must be for everyone. Even uh, the worst, what the world sees as the worst people in the world. God's will for them is perfect happiness. And we have to love them just like we love our own family. And because we're all one. It's hard to understand. We don't, we judge things in the world as right, good and bad, but we really don't know. Say, for example, someone kills someone, for whatever reason. We say that's bad, but you took a life. It could be actually relieving someone because we believe the body is a limit, right? We're spirits, the body's a limit. And we could be setting someone free. We just don't know. I'm not saying to go out and kill anybody. I'm not saying that at all. But, you know, we just can't be judging. Let the world judge. But in our practice, we have to realize that everyone is holy. Everyone is holy now. Just like the song says, everything is holy now. And that's what we have to work at, loving everyone, even ones we don't think are worthy. That's my take on it. That's what I find uh, challenging about this. The rest of it is easy to say. God's will for me is perfect happiness. There is no sin. It has no consequence. It's easy to apply to the ego. It's not so easy to apply to all egos. Anyway, that's my comment. Thank you for listening, and once again, I love you all.
Thank you. So, in this space before the next hands go up, I've mentioned before that I'm reading The Power Now for I don't know how many times as a book study with my sisters, and we're on chapter 7. And Eckhart Tolle is listing the portals that allow one to open into this he's calling it the unmanifest. And the portals include silence, connecting with the space around the words. They include space, getting more interested, feels very much like Helen Hamilton, getting more interested in the space around the objects than the object, sinking into what is here now. He lists a few others. And the question arises, is love, this is why it came, is love one of the portals? And Eckhart Tolle's response was no. Love is the natural consequence of opening these portals. The love flows when these portals are open. The love is not a portal into the unmanifest. The love is a consequence of the open portals or the unmanifest. And I'm still sitting with that. It'll be interesting to see this conversation I have with my sisters and my cousin tomorrow. Um, and there's just this understanding that this happiness, God's will for me is perfect happiness, also feels like the ground of being. It's as long as I'm searching for happiness in the world, it will always be somewhat elusive. And I have a lot of things I could say about that. And um, when I let go of a worldly view of what happiness is and sink into the flow of the present moment, happiness, God's happiness is. Um, and there's a lot more that can be said about that too. And John's hand went up and down during that whole thing, so it's up again. So John and then Marana. Hey, John.
I didn't put my hand up, Cindy. I was clapping for Andrew, but it looked like a hand. But it doesn't matter. Since you called on me, I'd like to add a little piece for you now from John, and really speaks to happiness. One little definition I heard the other day about peace is happiness at rest. And I thought, that's a nice definition. Happiness at rest. That's the definition for peace. While I'm here, let me say this, Cindy, because it speaks to what you were talking about. And I really got it from Hamlet this morning when he's talking, the conscience makes cowards of us all. And you were mentioning about the fear of God that shows up periodically, and when you're in your thing, and it kind of came to me that what the issue here is, according to Shakespeare, is actually it's really a simulation of the imagination that we invoke about all the things before, and then we call it fear. But we are the ones who've put it out there first and then call it fear. And that's what makes us cowards of us all. We rehearse the embarrassment, the loss and rejection and all these things, put it out there, and then say, I'm afraid. And the body responds. And so, hey, yeah, well, you're right, absolutely right. You're scared shitless. But the other thing that comes to me is about the power of now. And you just reminded me, because I found a way to hijack A Course in Miracles lesson. You know how they say everything is in the past, everything, we see only the past? Well, this person told me, John, if you can create your day today to make a happy yesterday, consciously make yourself a happy yesterday by the things that I'm doing today, calibrate, inventory them, all the things that I do. And then when I go to bed at night, I can see I had a happy day today. Tomorrow when I wake up, I have had a happy yesterday. And I can keep doing this ad infinitum if I choose to have a happy life. And what am I doing? I'm remembering the past. So I thought that was kind of cute. I did want to share that with everybody. And it's worked for me for a few days last week, because I'm noticing there's a bias. Instead of the negative bias, it's a positive bias. So it is working. So I want to share that. So good luck to everybody, and happy Monday.
Thank you, John. I'm curious, A, to see if the practice continues, and B, to see if it, expands. So if there's a memory in the future of this conversation, I might ask you how it's going in a week or so. Yeah. It made me smile. There's another story here, but I'm handing the mic over to Rana. Hey, Rana.
Hello, Cindy. Hello, everyone. It's really good to be here. So, first of all, I am really grateful to understand that the word sin means separation. Would have been hard to swallow any of this until I had an understanding and clarity of that, And really, the first time I read this through over the weekend, it felt very confusing again. The first thing I really identified with was paragraph 2, because that is part of my story. Is when I was doing my running, prior to getting into recovery, I really tried to, quote, stay out of God's radar. And when I came into recovery and they suggested that, but for the grace of God, there go I was like, oh no, I've been trying to avoid this because now I'm going to get all the punishment I deserve for being such a bad girl. And so there it is in paragraph 2. That is exactly what that explains. So I sat and sat and sat with this, and like the text part of it was just, kind of bringing up confusion, and I realized sometimes that's just the ego kind of clouding things over. So what I did was I sat with the title of the lesson. God's will for me is perfect happiness. And these are some of the things that came up for me. God's will, not Rana's will, is perfect happiness. Not my version, my limited version of what happiness is, which prior to coming here was everything on the outside. When I get this, then I'll be happy. When I do this, then I'll be happy. God's will, what is God's will? God's will is what is. And when accepted by this one, by applying the truth to what is being seen, right? Because I'm still very much in the world. And so if disturbed, what this does for me is I can pause for a moment and ask, above all else, help me see this differently, or whatever. So I bring this truth of God's vision in. So it's no longer Rana seeing it and Rana determining what happiness is. Okay. So many times in here it says sin does not exist. And there's still something here that doubts that that's the truth. However, the wonderful gratitude is I remember when there was doubt surrounding that God loves me for who I am, not what I do. What the personality does. And there has been such leap forwards there. And I remember saying, how many times do I have to read or be told or listen in a discussion over and over how much I am loved? When am I going to drop the idea that I cannot be loved? And this sort of points to that again. So I guess I'm just shining the light of awareness on that there is indeed still doubt that the world is possibly real and that separation does exist and that I can be guilty. And there's not a feeling of being wrong here. It's more of a like, shine the light of awareness on it. I don't need to do anything about that, but notice it. And so that's what I'm being asked to do here. Because what is happiness? I think what this is really pointing to is that the idea that nothing is separate is happiness. So I kind of just played around with words and just kind of left the text. And now as I'm sitting here reading again with you, there's more clarity, you know. I don't have to panic on dry land. These things seem to come when they're supposed to come. So thank you.
I just join you in that. My experience of working with this lesson in preparation for this hour is completely different than any other time I've sat with this lesson. So, yeah. May. Hi.
Good morning. Um, Yeah, I've been journaling a lot like this week, this weekend, but I've been comparing the idea of the ego. Like I listened to Advaita from Thursday, and what's been helpful for me is thinking about like the idea of the ego as just an idea. It's the P, it's the princess and the P. And then what I did yesterday, I just like I just ate it. I was dancing like all day. I was just like dancing, like doing ballet, and then like just like doing like natural yoga, like kind of just letting whatever was in my like experience just like move through me. And then I was thinking about the princess and the pea, and I was like, the thought of separation, all that it is just a little thought. It could just be a little pea. It can just be a pea. And you know what you can do with that pea? You metabolize it. You just eat it. And we're never not what we are. It's at this point, it's like every teaching reiterates the same thing. And what it is also is that like every language for it is exactly it. Like like people are going to have different ways of verbaging and putting these ideas into language, but I think ultimately like what dancing does for me and helps me integrate like whatever ideas and teachings like truth basically is that it's nonverbal communication. It's completely vibrational. We're moving everything around. And it's amazing. Like I feel like I'm doing it with everyone I've ever known in their like in their higher like it's that ball of light that they all are, because that's exactly what we all are. We are ah, we are exactly all this. And that's what each teaching tells us. And we constantly deny, we constantly, there is that small part of ourselves that is like trying to get us to be like, no, that's not it. Because, but every act of lovelessness is a call for love. And it does, like, I think what's been helpful for me is realizing that even in the moments and the expressions of love that I don't like call love, I'm like, that is love. That is exactly what it is, because love is just thought, and thought loves itself. And when you can like integrate that, it's going to reflect back at you. I this is like I just do like the amp like lately I've been dancing, and it's like this kind of like amphithydranic kind of system. But I think it's like if we get I want to teach like it's that song Safety Dance. I want to dance. I want to do the safety dance with everybody.
Oh
Anyway,
my God. They played the safety dance at my niece's wedding. It's a family thing. Thank you, May. Hey, Amy.
I'm tempted to take my hand down because May just said it all, but I knew if I did, you wouldn't let me do it, Cindy. I loved looking at everyone's face while May was talking, and everyone started smiling when May was doing her thing. I just think it's great. The key word for me is perfect. That's the key word in this whole thing. And the egoic mind can't understand what perfection is. This is a lesson. This is why those who go through the course and then discover the Vedanta, Advaita, say that is the final step. Because this is a very dualistic way, like God and me. Like there's God, and God has this will for me, and I'm separate from God. And the funny thing is that the whole lesson is about perfection, which can only happen in oneness, in sinlessness, right? And yet it's teaching to the egoic mind. And so I always want to come back and just remember there's no Amy to sin. Who would be sinning? Sinning. It would be a separate person. So there's really no one here to get this. It's there's only being. There's just being. So that's all I have. Thank you, May, for sharing your joy with all of us. I love it. It's so nice.
Rama's got her hand up again.
Yeah,
So cool.
I'm laughing because now I see everything I wrote down was like the ego playing with it, right? And I don't feel wrong for that, but it's just like so freaking subtle.
Is you just have to remember there's no separate person. That's what salvation is. It's the recognition of oneness. And the little identity of the ego, whatever you want to call it, the idea, as May said, it's just an idea. It's all it is. It has no power. Just be the one with the one as a unique expression of it. You're in your perfection when you realize that. That's perfect. Do with me what you will, right? The last thing, I mean, God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for me is happiness. God's will for me is perfect. God's will is, right? God's will is. That's it.
Can I read something from A World Made New I flipped to last night? Um, Now, most of you want it in one way or another. You perceive separation as a product of your experience, night and day, winter and summer, polarities always. But when you understand that what you think of as a polarity is simply a different level of tone or experience in a common field, the common field is one field. You will understand the idea of gradation, not good and evil, or black or and white, but gradations of the same, expressing themselves in darkness or light. The denial of the divine claims the density you have experienced. When you stop denying the divine, the lifting occurs, and the relationship to the divine simply is what you are experiencing all day long. It doesn't push or pull, equalize, my friend. It's all the same thing.
I am inspired to share a story. Can I share a story about what's going on? Part of one of the little things that's going on in Cindy's life. Um, so didn't know this existed, but Emma had a student loan, literally, and it came out in the midst of trauma, like when Cindy was experiencing a lot of suffering and trauma, and with both of my kids at that time in their life, everything about what I was doing was just making sure they were okay in the moment. And then, supposedly these federal loans went out, and then COVID hit and all sorts of things hit. Don't ever remember getting any notification of a loan being due, right? 9 years, we're talking 8, 9 years. And now with some of the things that are going on in the government, all of a sudden there's all these notifications. And it probably got set off when Emma bought the car and they did a credit check and they found Emma. And now there are these notifications, and they're coming to my house and I'm opening them with her permission. And I'm looking at this $13,000 student loan note and the indication that if it doesn't get resolved, they're just going to take the money out of her paycheck. You got 60 days, right? And I'm watching I'm watching all the things that are going on here relative to everything we're talking about. So I know that there are actions that need to be taken, and there's communication with Emma and decisions that have to be made. We were talking about that, before we hit the record button that there are still things to do in the world. And at the same time, I literally spent hours just feeling the fear, feeling the shit, not again, feeling the whatever I was feeling, doing my best, and then taking more steps. Um, Took me 2 days before I even told Emma this most recent notification came in, because I had 65 and there was a lot of fear here. And and then after a little bit, it was so interesting without going into the minuscule details. It came to this to guilt. I don't experience a lot of guilt in my experience, but there was this pocket of this loan is my fault, not Emma's. I literally owned it all. Like, and I saw that. I allowed myself to feel the guilt, and then I called her and I just casually said, "Well, figure it out. I'll help you figure it out, and I'm really sorry." And she literally, like, there was no question. She's just like, "Why are you sorry? This is my dad." And I'm like, I realized at that point the apology was for my aspects of making sure the world was okay and not making, like, literally she's owning her life, which was extraordinary. And I felt the relief of that. Like, oh, now I get to be with my daughter without feeling guilt. And after that, these memories of there's actually an account. So then I knew that there's this account, right? That we were putting money away to help them pay their student loans. And I couldn't get into the account for a day and a half. And I watched the energetic spiraling of trying to get into this account occurring. And I sunk into that. I let myself really feel the fear of God, the fear of being attacked, the fear of shit, no matter what I do to get on the other side of this. I allowed myself to feel how inept there were pockets of, and it was all old historical stuff, and it came up, and I did the work. The work really is just letting it come up and feeling it and feeling it. I knew there was nothing in the world to do, and then it died down, and then I figured out how to get into the account. There's $4,000 more in that student loan account than the debt. And Emma's coming over this afternoon. We'll make a call and the debt will be paid. And then I get to feel this sense of, because there's still money lack things here, this, I don't want to pay it. I want Emma to have the money. And I was like, oh, so you're believing in a power. You're believing in money as a god. And so that gets to be healed too. But it's so interesting, this merging of using the world to extract all of the stuff that's here and letting it burn at the same time taking this, like, there was no sitting on the couch and waiting for the world to end. It's, to me, it's my equivalent of when Amy was talking about calling her senators this morning. I made the calls, I got into the accounts, I talked to my daughter, I sat and at the same time, when the fear is arising, taking the pause to let it burn, recognizing that that fear is all the places inside where, Cindy is hiding the fear of God, essentially. The fear that I will be judged, the fear, the belief in sin, how, I don't even care what the words are. I'm just actually reporting an experience, and there isn't a lot of energy involved in analyzing what any of it means, other than the fact that now there's this almost this fear, the fear that the world really ain't real. Like, what if that money didn't exist before I did the work? Because essentially it hadn't, for X number of days in this experience, I was not really aware that the money to pay it was just there. Um, so anyway, that's my in the moment this week's story. Um, Lonnie. You
Good
know,
morning, family. Can you hear me?
now we can. Yeah.
New headphones, so this is the first time using them. I really hate this share, don't share battle that I go through, that I put myself through. I am realizing now that it was a necessary, somewhat battle just now as I listened because I needed to listen for a while before I shared. Yeah. Whoa. And so as I got to sit and listen, I have to say this out loud before I say the rest of this. I have a clear understanding listen is a invention of humanity as a part of their system of control. I recognize that. But what I fell into as I listened to the readings and all of that, I kind of got dropped into remembering being considered a sin, being considered unworthy of life, listening to conversations, for instance, between some of my aunts that were predicting that basically I was destined for jail because of my bloodline of my father. And all of this bullshit that kept telling us that we did not deserve to be here. And then it's when we got older and this whole thing about the multiplicity came forward and that could only exist out of this. And here's the knowing now, because I did it, I had this ever since the talk the other day, I've done this little dance of fear, which has been really kind of fun and interesting. Because Lonnie, keeps going into this place of fear of, oh my God, what now? And the rest of us are kind of saying, well, this is now. And the reminder keeps coming that there has been nothing thus far and there will be nothing going forward that will be placed before us that is in any way, shape, or form intended to move us into fear. That the choice for fear is that baited hook that keeps dropping. And so it became this little thing. Every time it would come up over this weekend, that little fear of, what does this mean now? There'd be just that reminder that God gave you this. God didn't punish you with this. This was a gift. God got this. This is all a part of that. Even this little shudder of fear, it's a part of that too. And then today, in this moment right now, I am so grateful for this talk because I'm very, very much realizing that dust bunny, I'm going to call it, that was still hanging out in the recesses of shit that don't exist no more needed to be released. And I welcome the release in this moment. I am not a sin, never, nor are any of us, never have been, never will be, because sin does not exist. God does not make sin. I love you all.
Man, just got chills.
Thanks, Lonnie.
God.
Thanks, Lonnie. I loved your talk. I loved your talk. It was over the top. You're over the top. I'm so grateful for you.
In the past, when I've been told I'm over the top, that meant shut up. But I hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't, Richard, you haven't spoken yet. We got 5 minutes left and
Hi, everybody. Love us all. Great lesson. I love this lesson. The reason why I love it is because I want to believe that the possibility of living as a separate being in an illusion it can be happy, joyous, and free, moment to moment. Now, I accept the idea that the dream we're all experiencing was caused by a rejection of the thought of sin, fear, and guilt by the one mind, and that created the world. But now I believe, now that I'm awakened to my real self, I'm going to convert that to peace, love, and joy, moment to moment. And I can, in fact, live a life in the dream that is full of happiness. Now, will it be perfect happiness? Oh no, because I'm in a body. I'm in a finite existence. I'm in a limited environment. And this limited environment will require me to experience many things initially that I'm going to judge. Because that's what I do as a separate self. I judge everything. So I have to catch myself in judgment and realize, whoa, everything's perfect as it is. I'm happy, joyous, and free, accepting that. I don't judge others. I don't judge myself. It just is what it is, and I embrace it. So that's working for me. So the fact that we're talking about we can be happy in the dream is a wonderful idea for me. Because how many people have we heard every time we have these meetings, regardless of what conferences we go, everything's worried about, oh, I'm having so much pain. I'm having so much suffering. I'm having so much fear. Well, it's all bullshit. Everything is perfect the way it is. Accept it as it is. Be willing to give up the separate self. Surrender it to everything that is, and just let everything be as it is. And my experience is I'm happier now than I've ever been. So I'm going to keep it up. Well, I choose to be happy, joyous, and free. How about this sin, fear, and guilt stuff? I'll deal with that as it comes up. It comes up far less frequently than it did 30 years ago. So I'm going to focus on being happy, joyous, and free, moment to moment. And that's it. That's my contribution to whatever this is that I'm experiencing. Love us all.
Love us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we have 2 minutes left. And I see you, William. I see you, Sandra, Chuck. I guess those are Josephine. Anybody?
I'll save my talk for tomorrow.
Are you leading us tomorrow, William?
I guess you'd say I'm leading me somewhere.
Beautiful. All righty then. Would anybody else like to speak before I turn the recording off? Richard, are you waving or are you?
No, I want to recommend, I sent a message out this morning to a number of you only because I have your emails. I don't have the other people's emails. But I listened to a podcast yesterday with Heath Avenel, his Sunday podcast. I would recommend it to everyone. If you're really interested in the Course in Miracles and want to understand what it means, I really loved it, particularly the Q&A at the end. It runs over 2 hours, but it's worth every minute. So I would recommend his website or his Facebook pages, A Course in Miracles with Keith. .com is his website, and he's also on Facebook, but well worth watching.
I'm grabbing it. All of a sudden everything's slow, but I am grabbing it. Okay, here we go. There it is. Okay, everybody, I'm going to turn the recording off.